Well, good morning, brothers and sisters. This is Friday, the end of another week. Hope it's been a good one for you. You're looking forward to being in God's house Sunday to worship Him. Today in our Bible reading plan, we are in 1 Corinthians chapter 8. 1 Corinthians chapter 8. And what I wrote at the top of my journal after reading this chapter, you may get a kick out of this, is why I don't drink alcohol. Why I don't drink alcohol. And there are two reasons. One is biblical, the other is practical. So I want to begin with the biblical reason. In chapter 8, Paul is writing to the believers in the city of Corinth. And remember, this was a divided church. They were divided over a lot of issues. There were a lot of immature believers who had not really grown spiritually in this church. And one of the issues they were divided over that he addresses in this chapter is whether or not it was sinful to eat meat that had been sacrificed to an idol, to a pagan god, if you will. So he talks about that in this chapter. Look at chapter 8, verses 4 and following. Therefore, concerning the eating of things sacrificed to idols, we know that there is no such thing as an idol in the world, and that there is no God but one. So those idols are not real. They don't represent real gods. Verse 5, for even if there are so-called gods, whether in heaven or on earth, as indeed there are many gods and many lords, in other words, in people's belief system there is, not in reality, but in their belief system. Yet for us there is but one God, the Father, from whom are all things, and we exist for him, and one Lord, Jesus Christ, by whom are all things, and we exist through him. So one God, one Creator. Verse 7. However, not all men have this knowledge. Not everybody knows this. Not everybody believes this. Some people believe there are no gods or many gods. These idols are gods. But some, being accustomed to the idol until now, eat food as if it were sacrificed to an idol, and their conscience being weak is defiled. So there are people who believe those idols are real, they represent real gods, and that meat is a real sacrifice to that real God. Continuing in verses 8 and following, he said, but food will not commend us to God. We are neither the worse if we do not eat, nor the better if we do eat. Talking about the meat sacrificed to idols. But take care that this liberty of yours does not somehow become a stumbling block to the weak. For if someone sees you who have knowledge, dining in an idol's temple, will not his conscience, if he is weak, be strengthened to eat things sacrificed to idols? And then one more verse, verse 13. Therefore, if food causes my brother to stumble, I will not eat meat again, so that I will not cause my brother to stumble. So what's he talking about? Okay. People would offer meat as a sacrifice to these idols. They're not real. And he says, in essence, it's not a sin to eat the meat or not to eat the meat, because food doesn't make you righteous, and because these idols don't represent real gods. It doesn't matter. Nothing wrong with the meat, because they would take that meat that had been sacrificed and it would be sold on the open market, or actually in restaurants, or there at the temple. And he says there's nothing simple about it. But there are some people who are spiritually weak, immature, and their faith can't handle it, because they can't make the distinction that those are not real gods, so there's nothing wrong with the food. So because they are spiritually weak-minded, spiritually weak in their faith, immature, it might cause them to stumble. It might hurt their faith if they see you eating out in public meat that had been sacrificed to an idol. So he says, don't eat if it's going to offend somebody. One of the reasons, the biblical reason I don't drink alcohol is because in my part of the world, seeing a Christian or a preacher will offend and hurt the faith of some. Not all, but some. And because of that, I choose not to drink. He talks about in here not abusing your freedom. In verse 12, he says, and so by sinning against the brethren and wounding their conscience. When I know we're free to eat the meat. The Bible condemns drunkenness. It doesn't condemn drinking, but it does condemn drunkenness. But some people's faith will be hurt if they see you drinking, especially in public. And he says, if I know that it's hurting someone, but I insist on my freedom and in my arrogance and pride, I'm going to do it anyway. He said there's sin in that. So don't do it. So one reason I don't is because it offends some people. It hurts their faith. So I choose not to do it. The second reason is practical. Here's the thing. If I never drink, I will never have to worry about being guilty of the sin of getting drunk, even one time. Because the truth is, most people who drink casually, socially, will occasionally get drunk, and that is always a sin. So if I never drink, I don't have to worry about ever sinning by getting drunk. Another reason, if I never drink, there's no danger I'll ever become a problem drinker or an alcoholic. I don't have to ever worry about addiction because I never put it in my body. Another reason, practically, that I don't drink is if I don't drink, I will never get a DUI. If I don't drink, I will never cause an accident because I was drunk and driving. So those are the reasons I don't drink. If you do, what are the reasons you do? I'll see you tomorrow. Well, Sunday in church and then Monday with another devotion. God bless you, everybody.